This guy's lying on his bed.
I'm lying on my bed now. Yeah.
The most eventful podcast guest I've had.
Yeah, I'm just like,
this guy's cooking, looking at his emails.
Listen, pulling up pictures of Bert.
Pulling up pictures of Bert.
Listen, I don't have a fucking
You're lucky
podcast.
I only have 2 fucking followers on this platform.
Buddy, if this podcast was in Vaughn, bro.
Yeah, bro. If this podcast was Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Would you be doing this?
No, I'd be in a studio.
Welcome back to the Corner Talks podcast. I have my good friend here.
How's it going, man? Happy to be back.
No, it shouldn't be about anything. Like, this is one life.
Yep, one life? Like, fucking do it.
My guy.
Like, she just got it. She totally understood it.
20 years old when I started just watching a lot of movies.
And it tells a story. I want to tell a story.
Good friend, talented comedian, Marc Anthony Sinagoga. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Woo! I'm doing good, buddy. I love the deep freezer in the back. Very Italian of you.
Yeah, no, it's not a deep freezer. It's actually a filing cabinet. But good call. We do have a mini fridge next to me. It's not in frame right now, but definitely very Italian of me. That's where I keep my cold cuts and my snack size chocolate bars. Because, you know, whenever I get a Snicker craving, right?
I love that.
You know how it is, right? But yeah, Marc Anthony, it's a pleasure having you on the podcast. I find you wildly funny. I've told that to you many times to your face, and not to embarrass you or anything, because I know you're a very humble guy about it. But yeah, you're hilarious. It was an honor. It was a pleasure to see you perform stand-up live on the I'm Your Sugar Daddy tour, headlined by our mutual friend, Nima Naz. That was wild to see. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, just seeing your face right now, we had a little bit of an exchange before the podcast. It brings, you know, a smile, because I reminisce on like the moments we shared, you know, like traveling across Canada, all the laughs, a lot of them at my expense. That's part of it, you know, part of being part of the comedians, right? That was my initiation, right? But I loved it. So many inside jokes we shared, just countless. I feel like, you know, spurting them out right now, just like endlessly. But yeah, man. Did you share the same experience on tour?
Oh, man, it was great. I mean, you know, first off, watching Nima just sell out everything and crush across Canada was inspiring, just because, you know, you see that social media is the answer to building your own fan base and all that kind of stuff. So
exactly,
that was phenomenal. And then, you know, as someone who's been touring and headlining the country for a while now, you don't always get to work with people that you like, or even people that you know, and you just get to know them as you go. So this was great, whereas like you work with a bunch of people that you already knew. And like, you know, I didn't know you, and the way that we met was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
So that kind of set it off on a great note. And I mean, we're both Italian, so like, you know, we're already paisans anyways. So
exactly.
Yeah, it just made for just great synergy and so much fun, dude.
Yeah, no, and I felt the same way, right? Like, we often joked about being paisans, but that's really the truth of it. When a lot of the jokes we would laugh at, it's just how we grew up and just how we saw things. You know, one of the inside jokes being, if this was Vaughn, because you and I both know, like, they could never pull that shit. You know, between the service and like, you know, clientele and things like that. But no, it was hilarious nevertheless. And like I said, it made for a memorable experience. You know, going back to you and Nima, like, were you guys boys from before? Were you guys like friends, or you guys kind of cross paths? Because I noticed some like older videos that you guys put out back in 2019, or does that go further?
I think it goes a little further back, but I can't remember. Like, I'm pretty sure the way we met is we were both on the same show at a comedy club, and then he saw me do a Persian accent on stage and was like, "Buddy, we got to do videos together." He's like, "Your Persian accent's hilarious." So
yeah,
that's kind of what set that off. And I don't even remember when that was. I think it's got to be 2016 or 17, somewhere in there.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's a while back. So you've cultivated this friendship. So it's been many years, right? And this is like the first time you're on tour together?
Yeah, definitely first time on tour. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, speaking of the tour, got the pleasure of, you know, witnessing you doing stand-up. And like I said, you're a modest guy, at times very self-critical. And as much as you don't like to boast yourself, I do mean that when I say I find you funny. But I want to get into like you being a comedian. How did your passion for comedy first develop? And when did you decide you wanted to do stand-up, indefinitely?
It's a good question. I'd say I owe it to Humber Comedy School. I went to Humber Writing and Performance because I never really had the idea of doing stand-up in my head. Like I was like, oh, I'm always writing funny ideas and, was trying to find a way to get into it, but never really knew how or what.
Right.
And then I auditioned for the program because a friend of mine told me about it. And then I just ended up going on stage for the first time because they make you do stand up and stand up class. So,
right.
And the first time I went on stage was like, that fucking light bulb moment, if you will. Like I got off stage and I was like, oh fuck, I think I found what I'm supposed to do here.
Nice.
I just kind of went all in from there and been, constant collaborating, pushing ideas out, this and that. Right. So it's been fun.
So it was almost like a calling for you would say.
I'd say so. Yeah. Like, cause you always look for something that, you do that you're like, oh man, I'm actually fucking really good at this naturally, or like, without, too much effort or whatever. Like you find something that you feel like you're naturally good at, or like just something you feel that you're supposed to do or whatever. And that was it for me. Like I got off stage and like I did so well. And I was like, fuck, this is great. And I had that high or whatever. I mean, my second set was like the world's worst set I've ever done.
Right.
So it was humbling right away. But no, I still was like, okay, you got to remember that feeling from the first time you did it,
Nice. That's amazing, man. And that's what distinguishes, I don't know, like I always enjoy hearing from creatives, any sort of talented individuals, that it's not just a passion, it's a calling, right? Because that just puts it on a different level. And that's why I've seen you so dedicated to the craft, right? And it's also innate. Like, again, it's not just you go on stage, you're funny, and then you come off and you're like, don't talk to me, or like you're a different character. It's just who you are, like all those Uber rides we had together, the hotel rooms. It was wild, right? To see you just like always on note, always, being a very observant and cracking jokes and really just making light of everyday situations. Were you always like that as a child?
That's what my parents say for sure.
Yeah.
And in class, that was sort of always what I was doing, was getting kicked out of class and shit like that. So for pointing things out or making jokes or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like when a server comes to the table with your bread from your breakfast that's fucking 30 minutes after your breakfast, you're like, Patty, if we were in Vaughan, you would have been fired.
You would have been fired, bro.
You'd be working at Toys R Us, bro.
We're still waiting for that jam.
We're still waiting for the jam. That was so funny, dude.
Oh, man, I looked at you and you, like, again, back to our inside jokes. Like, we just fucking knew, man. You pull that shit, especially at a banquet hall at an Italian wedding. Done, bro.
Bread.
Yeah.
The bread should be first, never mind last. Like, that actually pissed me off. For those of you who don't know, we ordered breakfast and like we got our breakfast and then the bread came a solid, like we were all done our meals and then the bread came and we're like, hey, can we get some jam?
Yeah,
the jam never came.
Yeah, the 18 burger situation as well. That was funny.
Oh yeah.
Oh, no.
18 burgers. A&W.
That was wild. I told that story to my uncle because, again, they understand the humor, and he looked at me serious. He's like, "It's right, Daniel. It's only true." I'm back in Vaughan.
Are you talking about the A&W burgers?
You know what I'm talking about, right? Like the burger. I don't want to say too much, but like we were having a shit show about 1 or 2, but then they ended up taking 18, and you're like, the limit. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you don't remember that?
Sorry, I didn't know if we were talking about the poutine place or the A&W.
Oh situation. No, not about Keaton. No, that's another story. I'm talking about when we were wrapping it up and we were being generous, and then
I'll take 1 or 2.
Yeah, like you and I just read each other immediately, and we're like, it was just,
you're an MDF, buddy.
Yeah, it's and it's just the way we were raised, like it's just embedded in our culture. And like I said, I was explaining that to my uncle, like my Zio, right? I should say, when he was coming, he visited me after the tour. And I told him the story and he didn't laugh. He looked at me and he's like, it's only right. Like, of course you're not gonna. And I'm like, you see how we were bred, as I say, we were bred to think.
And you know what's funny? When we were explaining it to everybody else.
Yes.
They were like, yeah, but we offered it. And I'm like, yeah, but when we offer it, we're not offering everything. It's like, you want to take some leftovers? Sure, take 2 slices of pizza. buddy, don't take 4 or 5
Yeah.
pizzas. Like, we still got to eat 2 tomorrow. Come
But it's
on.
like, I told my Zio, I was like, it's like me, Zio, like coming over to your house for a birthday and asking for 3, 4, 5 slices of cake. When I go home, you're gonna say, "But did Daniel eat dinner or what?"
Does anybody feed this guy? And then
Like if I went over to your house, you invited me for a dinner, and I just like kept gorging down food. When I leave, you'd be like, "Buddy, don't ever come back."
yeah, exactly. And then they'd call your parents. They'd be like, your kid's malnourished.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, what is this guy doing? Yeah.
Do not feed
Yeah,
your kid. Yeah. But we, again, like that, I'm so happy you nailed that, because just to see the dynamics of the cultures, right? It's like we kind of understood, and just those social norms, like we kind of picked up on. And that's what I meant by having you on the trip. Like we could only laugh at that because we knew where it was coming from. So that was so wild. But going back to like Humber College, because you and Nima share a very similar journey. I honestly was never aware that you could go to school to study comedy. Joe Rogan often says you can't do it, like it's not a thing, but you guys proven that it's possible. And I've kind of admired that you used it as a tool to like hone your skills. For me, I never had the privilege, never had the opportunity of going to film school, probably because I didn't have the right portfolio at the time. But I always wonder, and I always ask that question, if I should have gone. I want to ask you, did it serve you? Did it make you become a better comic? Or do you feel the real world going to venues is what shaped you and defined who you are?
It's definitely a combination, because it's sort of it okay, here's what I like about it.
Right.
They make you do everything.
Okay.
Right. So you audition to get into the program, and let's be real, they take probably everybody. Because how many people are actually applying to this program,
Right.
So and I saw ads for it. My buddy actually saw ads for it on the subway system. And I remember, like, I got off this argument with my dad, and he was like, "You're not dropping out of fucking college. No fucking way. Like, you have to go to school."
Right.
And I'm like, and I was like, "Oh, I want to go to Second City, whatever. I want to get some training done, see what, know the ropes here."
Of course.
And then that same day, my buddy's like, "Oh, that's so weird. I just saw an ad for it at Humber." So then I applied, then I got in. And like I said, they teach you sort of the basics, and you realize that you're learning from people that are going to be your peers later on.
Right.
And you don't really notice that until you kind of leave the school, if you will. But so they kind of give you about just general rules and ideas of how comedy is done, etiquette in the scene, what's available to you to progress your career, what's not, like, this sort of thing. And like, they make you do radio, they make you do sketch, film sketch, live sketch, improv, stand up, all this stuff, acting, voiceover work, just to see what you like and where your career could potentially go, and like how to hone your skills and put together a press kit or a portfolio, for example.
Right.
How to get yourself booked, this whole thing. So, I mean, that part of it is amazing.
The logistics of the business, you mean? Like, not so much the art form. They were
even the art form, they teach you how to structure a joke and like how comics usually do certain things and whatever.
Okay.
So like, which all information is great. But it doesn't matter if you're an expert. You're not an expert unless you're experienced at the same time. So
yeah,
that's where the scene itself shapes you in a different way, and you're not going to get the same level of comedian
right,
who has done it from coast to coast over and over again, played to 5 people in a room in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like they have 2 different purposes, and both are necessary to shape you as a comic, I think.
Right. Yeah. So it can't be discounted completely, right? Like, there is always knowledge to be gained. It wasn't like a waste of time or anything for you.
No, and that's exactly. And like, people go, "Oh, you can't teach comedy, or funny, or you're not." It's like, sure.
Yeah.
But it's almost just like there's just tricks of the trade and knowledge that you can gain, and like even learning the history of comedy, and all those things add to just the knowledge of how you approach something.
Right.
And breaking down comedians and all that kind of stuff as a group, or even just being around guys who are professionals who listen to your material after and go, "Oh, you should go like this. You should try saying it this way, or change it." Like, just different ways to approach it is all
Right.
part of it. And if I didn't go to Humber, I would not have done stand-up, and I would have never gotten into stand-up. So, I mean, just because of that, I have to be like, it was not a waste of time. And
wow, you're really attesting to that. Like, I gave you that push.
Well, yeah, they made you do stand-up. Like, in my head, I was like, I'm not doing stand-up. Public
Right.
speaking, are you fucking crazy? Right? Like, that was just never happening. So But because you had no choice or you wouldn't fucking pass the class, you do it.
Right.
And you know what I mean? And that's why I ended up doing it.
And you
So,
developed that mindset, then you were conditioned so like you were ready to go when it actually happened, when you needed to go. Like it gave you that encouragement to actually
Yeah.
perform live. Yeah. Because the number one fear, as we know, is public speaking. So, you know, just it was highly admirable just to see you guys being able to go in front of a crowd. And obviously you guys are experienced, you guys have been doing it for many years. But it still takes balls, you know, and I really do commend you guys on that. I still don't know how you do it, but I guess it's years of practice, and that's what makes you guys the professionals, right?
love it. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. So getting back to like the Italian parents and the Italian bring up,
Yes.
you were hinting that like your dad wasn't for you like dropping out. Like how was that? Like are they still giving you shit? Like how, like I can only imagine, because I dealt with a lot of crap, but what did you feel like for comedy? Like how was it?
I mean, like my dad hates when I talk about this because he's like, I've always supported you.
Yeah. Italian
and,
parents
you know,
101. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean?
What do you mean? I was there since birth.
Yeah. And you know what? It's true. Like, you know, my dad supported this shit. I mean, both my parents
Right.
do. And like, I'm fortunate enough that I could have taken the risk and lived at home for so long. And, you know, have the opportunity where my parents were like, okay, go ahead, pursue it, whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, there wasn't that full support. Like my dad was like, man, you got to get some sort of degree or education. Like my dad's very big on, you got to have a fallback. You got to have a plan B.
Yeah.
You got to, you know, and I'm like, no, man, my plan A is my plan B. And I'm like, no, I'm just doing this and I'm on for the journey. And he was like, no, like you got to make money. And, you know, and the older you get, the more responsibilities pile on, you know, you get married, you have kids, this whole thing. Like, and my dad, you know, we don't have kids, but got married, and you know, every now and then he'll be like, listen, you know, like at times get tough, like I got this sales job, I can get you in there.
Yeah. I know this guy that runs an agency.
Yeah. And he's like, I can get you in there, you know, you can be pulling in like 80 grand a year, you can still be doing stand up on the side. I'm like, Dad, I'm doing this full time. And you're just like, he doesn't realize that is a form of not supporting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, you know, and from him, you know, us, we have to realize that that's just a form of them just being our parents and just wanting us to be successful, and that unconditional love and whatever. He's like, you know, when there's an opportunity on his end, first person he thinks of to make more money is us. Right. So
of course.
It just sucks that they come from that generation where money is everything.
Yeah, I get it.
Where I don't care about money at all. And that's probably one of my downfalls. So
yeah, I'm the same way, man. No, I'm the same way, and I'm so happy you were transparent about it and blatantly just said it like that, because I often get a crap when I talk that way. They're like, "What do you mean you don't like money? How are you gonna live? How are you gonna eat? Must be nice right now, like staying at home, right?" And I'm like, listen, I'm just trying to say is that building the foundation to come up, like my success. I'm not trying to make it about that, because I know I'm gonna burn out, and I know I'm not gonna do it from the genuine like place of my heart. You know what I mean? Like this is not about. Obviously, we gotta eat, right? I gotta live. But at the same time, it's like I have to really do what's best for myself, my brand, and that's why I'm very, you know, particular about everything. So I'm so happy you said that. It's an admirable quality, and I think that's why it's gotten you so far and connected you with such talented individuals. Right? It's just being true to who you are and not changing your brand.
I appreciate that.
Anything. Yeah, no, I just basing it off of my observations, right? You know, being on the road and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man. So going back to like, you know, your parents sometimes not being supportive, or maybe even yourself. Like I know I was mentioning how you could be very self-critical. And the reason why I bring that to light is because I'm a very self-critical individual, you know, especially when it comes to my own craft. You know, I'm my biggest critic. I want to know, like, how do you overcome the challenges or lack of motivation when you're experiencing these kinds of like setbacks?
Setbacks being overcritical type thing.
Critical on yourself, maybe someone, you know, your family, someone close to you says you should consider another job, or just like a content not performing well, you know, like just kind of like the day-to-day for a creative. Yeah.
I mean, fuck, bro. Like I try my best to give myself like a nice spoon of gratitude all the time, and I try to like, meaning like I'll sit there and go, none of this even matters. Like we're gonna be dead so soon. Like you know, you know, like
in a blink of an eye, literally.
Like you know, and our lifespan on this timeline is fucking bang. So who fucking cares?
Exactly.
And it really bugs me when people get caught up into the day-to-day nonsense of like my uncle to this day, bro. He's like, listen, I need a couple guys this weekend to help, you know, do a lift and relay. And I'm like, Zio, I'm not doing construction. He's like, you're a bitch. You're a little bitch. You know, you gotta fucking work. Look at your hands are soft.
With
And
your
I'm like,
soft hands. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm like, shut up, man. Like, you know,
Yeah.
and I know, again, they mean it well, but they don't understand that over and over again, after being 10 plus years in, drop the album, fucking, you know, making a living, doing what some people don't do. It's
Yeah.
like, man, at some point, bro, why don't you fucking, you know, you have 5,000 connections and you never sit there to think to go, hey, why don't I call all my buddies who own companies and ask
do
them
it
to
instead.
hire my nephew
Oh,
to,
right.
you know, do a corporate event. You know what I mean? It's like
No,
they never.
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking like me. It's like, instead of like, yeah, you know how you can help me is network for me, or like put the brand out there. I know,
Yeah,
I love
push.
that. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
it.
Why don't you, instead of using your connections to get me a sales job, why don't you see if I can do the holiday party? And he's like, I didn't even know you did that. It's like, what do you mean, bro? You know, it's like, how many
Yeah.
family events do I have to miss because I'm doing a corporate or a gig, and for you just to go, I didn't know. Like,
Yeah.
so I mean, again, how do you overcome it? I sit there and go, I'm doing this regardless. I made that choice fucking 20 times over.
Yeah.
So when I sit there and have a bad set, I get upset about it. I try to go back to the drawing board, and I feel like it's good to do that. It's good to experience all those emotions anyways. But then you just go, well, I mean, I have a show tomorrow, so let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, you're just on to the next, because
I've
life's
been
too
through this
short. You got to
before.
enjoy the ride. Yeah,
Yeah,
you got
I've
to
been through
enjoy
this
the
before.
ride.
Yeah.
It's a roller coaster. There's highs and lows, and that's any industry. So it's like, you might as well do it in the one you love, you know?
Yeah, and it's so true. Like, I don't know about yourself, but I've had a taste when I graduated university. I had a taste of like the corporate life, and like you said, it's any industry. Like, the feelings that I have, it's more personal for me because I'm like attached to the craft, and there's like, this is my calling, like yourself. But it's like, you're always gonna have a bad day no matter what you do, right? Even if it's something you love, why don't you make it about something you love, so at least you can be proud of yourself, right? Or at the very least satisfied. So I respect that a lot, and I guess that takes years, right, to mature to get to that kind of point. And that's why I call you a professional comedian as well, because you are getting paid to do this, right? Think about that. Yeah, like, it's like, that's what you got to remind that Italian side.
Exactly.
Those guys, because the reason why I keep bringing up the Italians, no shade on them, but it's like the way we're raised, grew up. If you're not working for the government or a doctor or a lawyer, like, you're lost in life, right?
Yeah, and it's like, you know, here's the thing. My family has always been more on the trade side of things, so they're always like, buddy, every uncle of mine owns a construction company. So, and every one of them could use a bitch worker like me to lift bricks.
A big guy too. Yeah, I should.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just like, come on, help me out. Come on. And I'm like, bro, I don't want to be a lifer, bro. And like, honestly, dude, when I used to work with them in the summers, I'd get into fights with a lot of their workers that I call lifers, like guys that stay there for their whole life, or 20
Spend
years.
Their paycheck on fucking booze and shit like that.
Exactly. And you know, because I'd be like, I'd complain sometimes during the day and be like, buddy, fuck this. I never want to do this again.
Yeah, my back.
This is my back. This is my motivation.
Yeah.
And you know, and they're like, no, well, this is our fucking way out. This is our second chance in life. This is our calling. You know what I mean? And you're sitting here going, bashing it. I'm just like, boys, you're telling me there's nothing that you can do to better your life than this? Right. And they're like, hey man, life doesn't always happen the way it does for you, blah, blah, blah. So, and that's where I sit there and go, okay, I have to be grateful that I can actually do this.
It's true. Yeah.
So, and that's it. I sit here and go, I'm like, man, I've been given the chance to be able to pursue something that I feel that I'm really good at.
Yep.
And that's it. So it's like, I'm going to make it work regardless. I mean, you don't know your own journey, but again, you're in it for the journey anyways. So this is, the highs and lows are part of it. You can't get worked up over a couple little uppercuts that you get in the game. It's like, name me one person who doesn't deal with these struggles. You know what I mean?
But that's what I noticed, like, on the trip. That's why I kind of vibe. I loved your persona to it. It wasn't just on the stage. You carried it throughout your life. You know what I mean? Like, you would just make remarks about everything. And I noticed what you were doing. It's you're poking fun at life. So we're not all serious all the time, because you can very quickly get stuck into that, overthinking, right? I know I'm guilty of that, right? So I realized what you were doing, right? And I've had friends in the past like yourself. So it was a breath of fresh air, right? It's like, when we were late, right? It's like, come on, man, come on. The reason why you're doing that is because you're trying to like distract.
And they get remember how mad they would get sometimes? Like sometimes they take it so seriously and they're like, no, man. And I'm like, no, man.
Right.
Like, but it's like, who cares?
Yeah. And I'm doing I should mention, I'm doing the behind the scenes, right? I was hired to be the director of the whole behind the scenes for this tour. So I'm going through the footage now, editing the vlogs. And a lot of that is you just breaking that tension. You know what I mean? Like, just kind of like, absolving and just kind of like saying, yo, we're here, we're on a comedy tour. And I don't know, just making a lot, you stole a lot of the scenes, bro. I have to say that, like just going looking at the footage. So yeah, you got, yeah, he takes good notes. I'm literally like looking at a raw clip of that. Because I should mention, guys, Marc Anthony, first time I met him on the tour, I had to explain to him, my vision for this vlog and what he needed to do. So I said, just be as animated as you can, make a joke, chirp this guy, just be yourself. So a lot of that translated, and you'll see that when the vlogs come out.
That was great.
No, I'm serious, man. Like that's exactly the energy I wanted, because it goes well. It complements to the viewer, right? So thank you for that.
No worries. I want to interject because
of course.
You said that was when we first met, and that's not how we first met. And
okay.
I don't know.
Tell everybody what I did,
buddy. So I get onto the train. We taking the Via Rail from Toronto to Montreal. I get on my Via Rail seat, and the guy on the train goes, yeah, I mean, you have this whole foursome here to yourself. And I'm like, well, that's fucking weird, because I got on in Scarborough and they got on in Toronto. So I messaged the group chat and I'm like, hey guys, where are you at? And they all go, we missed the train. Fuck, we missed the train.
Yeah.
We're going to get the next train an hour later. Buddy, skip about what? It was about an hour in.
Yeah.
This idiot, Dan, comes and sits next to me and goes, hey man, can I sit here? And I'm like, yeah, man. And guys, I had never met him. I didn't even know he was part of the tour.
I was in the itinerary, by the way. It said Daniel Calderon will be joining. So just
legit,
just saying that.
Yeah, but
everything was accounted for, bro.
Yeah, but to be honest, I didn't know your face, right? And I
get it.
Okay, there's you, Cyrus, and then a couple other guys, and I'm
Who
like,
really reads the itinerary, bro?
No one reads the itinerary, buddy.
He's like, just make sure you pick me up at 8.
Yeah, imagine. But so I'm sitting there. This guy goes, hey man, can I sit with you for a sec? And he sits with me and he's silent, looking out the window for like 5-10 minutes. Yeah. And then he looks at me and he goes, yo, I think I recognize you, man. Like, aren't you that guy who does videos with Nima? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yo, can we get a picture? We get a picture, whatever. Then this fucking asshole stays staring out the window for like another 10-15 fucking minutes. And then he goes, oh, yo, my boys are going to love this, man. I got to send a picture of this to my boys, whatever. Starts chatting me up, asking me all these questions about my whole life. And then
Tenesina, bro.
Yeah, he goes, yo, what part of Italy are you from? My Tenesina. I'm like, oh, I'm from Casino.
I passed by. It was a fucking shortcut to my destination.
Yeah, exactly. Then in the group chat, on my phone, it dings, is the photo of me and him. And I'm like, yo, I think you sent, yo, is your boy in the group chat?
You went literally, shut the fuck up, because I was pitching you my whole production company. I'm like, so we do videos and technically and you're like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Why are you in this group chat?
Yeah. And then this guy goes, by the way, we all got upgraded to first class. Everybody's in the first train, bro. And I was like, you pieces of shit, bro. I walk fucking to the first class train.
Yeah.
There's Nima, the whole squad, like 8 people, and the whole train's in on it. So everyone's fucking laughing.
Yeah, what's funny is, even the fucking girl serving the food was like, did you get caught? Did you get like, why is she in it?
Yeah, I'm like, bitch, fuck off.
Yeah. And then they got back at me by taking our complimentary food that was seeds and raisins, or maybe more, but who knows?
Oh my God. that was wild. That
was hilarious.
First met.
And I should mention, like, when I told you the joke, like, usually you say, okay, here's the prank, and then it's a ha, and then let's dip. You stayed there for about 5 minutes, man. You were just kind of absorbing like what the fuck happened. And I just fast forward. I love on the tour when we brought up the prank, or you said, like, it's kind of like a running joke. Like, don't you think I forgot you guys pranked me, whatever. Right. And then I don't know if it was Nima, someone said something like, yeah, like, are you going to be pranking us next? And you're like, buddy, if I prank you guys, you'd be calling your mom saying I'm done.
Yeah, I'm like, if I fucking...
You'd be quitting the tour.
Yeah, exactly.
And another funny thing that happened, because we are speaking of the tour, is, me getting into a whole situation, just not feeling right. I don't want to get too involved, but just couldn't handle my alcohol one night. But what was hilarious is you're like, the tour is falling apart. We're losing our fucking BTS guy. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Not to get into depth, but we it seemed like the entire team was falling apart for a second, and me and Packer were just like, okay, we gotta fucking pick up the slack.
We gotta pull this together, or else we're headlining the whole fucking tour.
Yeah,
that was hilarious, man. That honestly put a huge smile on my face. But yeah, honestly, so getting back to the tour, just working alongside you guys, I really noticed how invested you were in cultivating your brands through social media, like day in, day out, like just consistent. That's what you guys were doing, posting content, making content. I had the fortune of like actually videos, like recording you guys, doing some funny skits. So I was wild to see like you guys actually do it live. So as a filmmaker who's passionate about telling stories myself, I've experienced that, why social media is so integral, obviously. So I want to know from you though, how has social media served your career over the last decade since you began comedy?
I found a picture of me and Nima. Actually, I just remembered that on my computer is like one of the first times we ever met.
Nice.
And I want to show it real quick.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
I'm just gonna flip the camera real quick.
Oh my god. it's striking again, bro.
It strikes again.
Oh my god. Okay, so for those watching video, this Bert character, this Bert on Molly or whatever. This has been a running joke. This was probably like the joke of the tour. We've used this many times on each other in more serious situations, which I can't really explain. But honestly, that's wild. That's wild to me. That it's still going. Wow. But good for you, man. That's what I mean. Like keep that energy, bro. Like that's hilarious. That's so nostalgic. When I see that, that should be like the face of the tour. Like,
dude,
it's like
honestly, legit. Because the other day when I got all you guys, I was in my bed, dude, and I'm like, I got Omid. And I'm like, that's it.
If I can get Omid,
yeah, if I can get Omid, I'm getting everybody. So I just used the same formula on all you guys.
Yeah,
it was the best. Nima called me just crying, laughing, dude. Anyways, you were saying about how social media kind of pushed my
just
career
how
forward.
it served you as a comic in the decade. Like when you first started, did you kind of receive like the fruits of it, like the benefits, or was it a grind?
So, I mean, I never really took social media as a business platform until recently, and I was never really approaching it with like a plan.
Right.
I would always be like, okay, I'm going to show people the inside of my life, the struggle, the whatever, where I am, what I'm doing, sort of thing, like just a little bit of an inside lens on what I'm doing, and that was it. So I didn't really ever get any benefits to it ever. And then I started doing characters here and there, started teaming up with Nima, and he was like, yo, man, you really got to start doing content as much as you can and put out as much stuff on your own. You're only really putting out what me and you do together. And then I started, collaborating with a couple other different guys, and same thing. I was never putting out my own shit. So and then I was like, okay, I see that people are making money off this. I see that it's excelling people's careers. I'm seeing that it's making shit possible for people in Canada, and it never was. Which has now made me want to do it more. And now it's definitely, I'm reaping some benefits for sure, because, the Doug Ford thing popped off for me during the pandemic. So that pushed me a lot. And then you just start seeing you get put on shows that you were never getting put on. You get looked at by people that you're never getting looked at. You're creating your own fan base, and then you can sell more tickets. And, the list goes on when you got people that are following you because they like you and identify with you and all that kind of stuff, and they're actually your fan. You can sell them shit, that you can build them on your community, send them newsletters, communicate, you know what I mean? So, and really reap the benefits of it. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
so
it's been definitely a grind.
Yeah, it's worked for you. Yeah. No, just like, again, like that is going back to the tour, just smiling because there was an exchange, you and Nima, and something came up about like, should I connect, or like something to do with like the guy had 2,000 followers, and you made a huge joke about it with a voice. You said, buddy, what is this, fucking 2010 or something like that? But it's so true, right? That's what I love about your humor. It's like it stings you, like you kind of feel it, like there's truth behind it, right? So just going back to social media and how important it is, how vital it is, people do look at you differently, the way it is, right? Like from 2,000 followers to 20,000 to 20 million, right? So that's amazing. I'm glad it's working out for you and you're getting more gigs. It really grants you that exposure, as it should. I want to know now, like, because I see, aside from Nima being a frequent collaborator, I noticed Austin Alexander. I don't really know him personally as a comic, but I've seen his work, especially through you. You do frequent collaborations with him. How did that kind of develop, and why is this kind of collaboration so important to your brand?
He and I met through Nima. We did a collab video, all of us together.
Nice.
And then we were going to do stuff together, but the pandemic hit, and there was a lot of complications there. And, Nima's got his team and stuff. And I Austin and I were in a similar boat where we're like, okay, well, we have all the time in the world to do whatever. And,
Right.
Nima had a plan for himself and his team. And,
Oh, you cut out for a sec.
sorry, somebody called
Okay.
me
Oh,
and I don't know why that happened because I have this on a do not disturb thing.
start
sorry.
the Z.
Come on, buddy, step the Z, hang up. But yeah, so then me and Austin just started making videos together, and
Okay.
we're putting them out on our own personal platforms and pages and stuff. And he's got
Right.
a film background, and always looks at things differently than I do, like with
Right.
more of a cinematic eye involved,
Yep.
and like how to bring the most out of using a shot and stuff like that. So like really bringing cinematic elements to short form content,
Yep.
which I never thought of, and like even to this day we get into like little bickerments, that not arguments, just like back and forth
Right.
about,
Right.
because I'm just like, I'm putting out what I think is funny and that's it, and he's always got a plan and like the shot and the angle,
Yeah.
which is probably why he's got more followers than I do and stuff. And
Yeah.
that acting and stuff is his main thing with like acting and shooting and
I got you.
content and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So we balance each other out in that regard, and we just started making good shit together. And we were like, why are we putting up the same video on our YouTube channel separately? We might as well put them on the same place. So we, committed to a YouTube channel and putting out all of our content on there as much as possible. And that has now become an extension of my brand, where it's like, I'm not just a stand-up now. I have a portfolio of big sketches and long form sketches that are, cinematically well done. And it's led to bigger and different opportunities than, I'd say different opportunities and bigger opportunities, but
Right.
definitely different than just stand up has done for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
So just because it's a
Open
different
more
avenue,
doors.
so open more doors, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what it's all about. You if you're a comic, as you know, man, you can't just be a photographer anymore. You know what I
Right.
mean? And if you are, you're doing yourself a disservice. Like, you got to be able to edit. You got to be able to fucking do some videography. Like,
Yeah.
you've got to maximize that fucking camera in your hand to
So
get
true.
yourself as much revenue as possible. So
No, it's so true. That's how I approached film. Like when I was 17 and I had my sights on, like I always wanted to be a filmmaker when I was a kid, but when I took it serious, or like set my sights on it when I was 17, wrote my first feature length screenplay, and I've written 4 since, but that first one kind of told me like, I love this story so much that how else can I make it? How could I be attached to the project? Like no one's going to hire me to be a director. And that's where the reverse engineering came about. And I realized like all these necessary tools I needed to develop in order to, like you said, build revenue and build a brand for myself. You can't just be like a writer, you know what I mean? It's like, how are you a visionary? How do you like put everything, all the pieces together? Kind of like what I did on the tour, right? It's like, I was still directing people in the shots and I was still filming everything, but I also have to know how to tell, construct a story in the post-production process, right?
absolutely.
I often say like videographers are point and shoot. A director is more like, where's the story? You know what I mean? So as you'll see with the vlogs, there's like a story element to it. And I'm happy that I've captured that for you guys. So it's like, it's almost like a documentary, right? Like you have that moment in time captured. So that's very wise of you to say. And it's important. It's critical. So I wish you all the best with that collaboration, because I know you guys are killing it.
Thank you.
So out of the social media platforms, because I there's a lot of moments where you were kind of disgruntled, just receiving, setbacks and things like that, accounts getting banned. Which one particularly do you feel is the most challenging to grow your audience, or you've had the most issues with?
I mean, I was permanently banned from TikTok for like 3 years.
3, wow.
2 years.
How'd you get it back?
I just started over. I was like, fuck it.
You just started a new account.
I started a brand new account.
Oh, good for you. Like, okay.
Fuck it.
Yeah.
And it's been tough to grow that because I lost my care for it. I see Nima and Austin are huge on their Packer, even bigger.
Right.
Shade Arena. And I'm like, fuck, man, these guys are getting paid with brand sponsorships and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, fuck, and I'm like, in the end, I'm like, all I had was like 20,000 followers anyways. So, which is nothing on TikTok.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck it. Might as well just give it a shot and start over. So I started over. And I mean, right now I only have 12, and I have all this old content, and I'm like, you know what? I want to put as much content as possible and put out all the old shit, whereas some people are like, hey man, you should start over on a clean slate. But what I don't like about TikTok is on a click of a button, all of them are like this, but I stopped. I didn't give a fuck because I'm like, man, at any moment they can say, oh, this isn't appropriate. Your account's gone again. It's like, and that just happened to me on Instagram too, where they banned my account for like fucking 8 days. And it was the end of the tour. It was like 2 sold out Vancouver shows, 2 sold out Toronto shows, the Hamilton show, dropping collab skits with Nima from fucking Vancouver. It's like, you fucking banned me, and I just had exposure to 2,000 people live over a course of 4 days. Like, are you fucking nuts? You know what I mean? So that really pisses me off that they can just do that. And that one hit me the most because that's my biggest following is Instagram.
Right.
And I think Instagram out of all of them is the best platform because it has that good balance of growth, but engagement with your actual community. Like, you actually feel like you can connect with your community. Whereas TikTok you have 6 million followers. Okay, great. You don't know any of them.
Yeah.
You can barely interact with them. Right. And even when you can, it's not very genuine and authentic. So it doesn't really matter. YouTube, similar. Now YouTube's trying to restructure themselves to kind of be the best of YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. So they're trying to cultivate more of a community.
Yeah.
But all platforms, man, as you know, have their own demographic and their own
advantage,
cult, and their own advantage. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know that was unfortunate news for yourself. Like when I heard that, because again, like this has now become, this is why I say a professional comic, like you need it for your business and you're on tour. You know what I mean? Like that was a critical moment that didn't need to happen. So I don't know if you recall in the group chat we're in, like I sent, I'm getting community guideline violations. And I'm literally talking about like, it's just my face like this, like zoomed in, talking about like letting go and like filmmaking, and it's like, how is that violating anything? And I peeled it, and right away they took the ban off, and I'm like, so why did you inconvenience me in the first place? Like, anyway, it's a wild ride. But before we go, I do want to shed light on your recent release, the Well-Fed album. Hilarious. It really, helped me out when I was borderline, facing alcohol poisoning. I don't know if you recall that night, but
I do.
Yeah, you did. Nailed the impression too. But honestly, man, like the Well-Fed album killed it. You did a great job. And I want to know what was the creative process in developing this album in the first place?
What's the best way to go about doing this? Sorry, I'm pacing around. You good with that?
Yeah, we're all good. We got that found footage angle.
Guys, yeah, exactly.
People are gonna tune out, but it's all good.
Guys, so listen.
Yeah. I got a 13-year-old. We got. Hang on, buddy. Just hold the camera. Janet, can you hold the camera for him? This guy's lying on his bed.
I'm lying on my bed now. Yeah.
The most eventful podcast guest I've had.
Yeah, I'm just like,
this guy's cooking, looking at his emails.
Listen, pulling up pictures of Bert.
Pictures of Bert.
Listen, I don't have a fucking.
You're lucky I only have 2 fucking followers on this platform.
Buddy, if this podcast was in Vaughn, bro.
Yeah, bro. If this podcast was Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Would you be doing this?
No, I'd be in a studio.
It's true. We're getting there.
Well, I don't know if this helps with the way I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's good. Just keep it still if you
can. Okay. So I'm trying to think about the best way to articulate this, because comedy albums are just a way that guys make money now. Whereas back in the day, videos weren't a thing. So comics would put these out, and that's how you would hear their 1-hour specials.
Right.
If they weren't getting a 1-hour special on Netflix, HBO, whatever. There obviously wasn't Netflix, but you know what I mean. So now comics receive royalties by them circulating the airways all over the place. And I was in this point in my career where I was like, okay, I'm married. I moved out. I no longer live in my nonna's basement. I don't live with my parents anymore. So these jokes aren't authentic. So I need to move on, but I've spent about a decade building this 1.5 hours of material. So something's got to give. I gotta record it, right?
Yeah.
And I have a collection of comedy albums, like vinyls. Steve Martin, Rodney Dangerfield, Cosby, all the old school guys. I really wanted to do that and put it out, and I made a vinyl. And I was like, I was really struggling with the name for a bit. I knew the picture because a buddy of mine, we did a photo shoot together. He's a childhood friend of mine. He's a graphic designer and photographer, and we did a photo shoot. And I'm going through my old photos, and he sees that mugshot of me, which was my passport photo from when I was like 12. He's like, buddy, this has to be your album cover one day. And then fast forward 8 years. And that was the same friend who actually told me about the comedy program at Humber. So
nice.
Fast forward 8 years from when he said that, and our first like headshot photo shoot, he's like, if you can find that photo, man. We found that photo, and we landed on the name Well Fed because I noticed that all the jokes somehow are related to food or family, which Italian families are centered around food. And I thought Well Fed was a good name because it was like, I'm well fed physically and with material too. Like I'm just surrounded by so many characters in my life.
But that's Italians would say that, like they wouldn't call you fat. They would just say you eat, like you're a good eater, like you're well fed, right? Yeah. So, I mean, and surrounded by all these characters in my life that I'm pulling from. Right.
So I'm like well fed with, content, love, food, all of it. So support. So I thought it was fitting. And then my buddy basically created this, whole art package of like, all those fast food images and mock them to well fed and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, the creative process was fucking interesting. I recorded 21 shows, which no comic ever does. They only do 2 shows. And I know this is a long-winded answer. What are you fucking yawning on me, bro?
What? No, I'm just trying to absorb it.
No, I'm joking. No, you're right.
Can you get to the fucking climax?
You're like, buddy, what are you saying, bro?
Our parents, if they were listening, okay,
we get it. You eat.
Okay, we get it. You make money off of fucking 2 jokes.
Yeah, we get it. You can eat pasta. Relax. Yeah. So I recorded 21 shows. Most comics do 2, 1, whatever.
Right.
Because I originally recorded it and hated it. I was like, I got to redo this.
Mm-hmm.
So I headline Absolute Comedy, and they have 3 clubs, or they did anyways. Now they only have 2, but they had Kingston, Ottawa, Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Recorded all of them myself. And the first time I did it, again, fucked up. So live and learn.
Yeah.
But I see a lot of record labels, they record it for you, master it for you, but then take, over sometimes 50% of the royalties because they're the producer on it. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, man, I'm going to produce this myself. I've lived and learned from the first time I did it. I rigged up the room myself. I rented the equipment myself. I cut it all together myself. Then I sent it to a guy to mix and master that I knew who does, rock and roll albums and stuff. And I was like, you know what, man, like I strongly suggest everybody does it themselves always, because you cut out these middlemen, you learn stuff about yourself, you learn stuff about how hard things actually are to produce. So when you actually go to pay for it, you don't mind paying top dollar. Like how many times I fucking edit videos or use Photoshop and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then a buddy goes, hey, I'll do it for you for $1,000. You're like, buddy, what are you nuts? It's way too expensive. But if you try it yourself, bro, it'll take you 6 months to fucking edit a photo. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, I admire that you respect the service, like the creativity involved.
Yeah.
And you're willing to pay.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, put it out, self-produced, man. I submitted it to the Junos. Hopefully I get nominated.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man.
They have a comedy section. So
that's awesome.
We'll see. I mean, I just really love it's all my best jokes. The album's coming, the vinyl's coming out next year. I've already ordered it, and it's got the second part of the album that's coming out in a couple months.
I can't wait. Yeah.
First album's called Well Fed. The next one's called Leftovers. That's a food thing. Yeah.
No, it was a genuine like laugh out loud. Like I really enjoyed myself listening to the album. Like it was everything was concise, and again, maybe because I'm Italian, there was a little bit of bias because like I understand a lot of the jokes, but I think that's what you were going for as well. And even if you're not Italian, like you can still, anyone that knows like how parents are with their children and just, being in situations like the whole thing of like, you're a bear or like you could protect me. Right. Like anyone that's been like dating a girl, like I can protect you to a certain point.
Exactly.
I love how you exaggerate it, right? You just go over it's like, yeah, are we talking about a gummy bear?
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, exactly.
It just went on, but that's awesome, man. So having said that, you already discussed or you hinted at the whole like leftovers, that project, the second half of Well Fed. Is there any other projects or endeavors you can discuss, or anything that you're kind of like looking to develop?
I'm developing the new hour right now, so I'm going to be touring a lot in a bunch of different cities, and hopefully this time next year, my goal is to stay here, put out as much content as possible, build my following as much as possible, authentically. So then, this time next year, I can do my own tour with my new hour, and then sell my first comedy special to Crave or whatever, and go from there. That's the plan. So I'm working on the 1 hour so that I can have a filmed special.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's great to hear. And you'll get there. Just time, patience, as they say. But yeah, patience. I can't do it, but yeah.
Yeah, me either.
But you killed it, man. Yeah, that's great. And it was great to see you doing stand-up. I have a lot of faith in you. I really enjoyed this conversation. Brought a lot of jokes out, put a big smile on my face, because it's only been like 2 weeks since we came back, but we're already talking about it. So
it's wild. It feels like it was like years ago, yet 2 days ago.
It was just like, it literally went in a snap. And that's why I love when you started off the podcast where I was talking to you about like, why don't things bog you down? And you're like, bro, we're done in about fucking like in a snap of the fingers.
Yeah, man, you could be dead tomorrow. And like in the end of the day, dude, we're so lucky that we got to tour.
Yeah, the privilege.
It was wild. Yeah, it's like
it
was like not a lot of people get to do the trip that we did. So
exactly. Yeah, no, for sure. We're definitely grateful. So really appreciate you coming on the podcast. Thank you again, Marc Anthony Sinagoga. I'm looking forward to everything that you're going to be putting out in the new year. And thank you everybody for listening, and we'll talk soon.